Welcome back. In this module, we're talking about how to deal with those obnoxiously specific writing prompts your English teachers are always giving you. Why can't I just write about Pokemon? Why? Pikachu! Really? Last time, we went over the first 3 steps for effectively responding to a writing prompt. Step 1, read the prompt carefully, maybe even a couple of times. Step 2, identify key words. Step 3, restate the prompt in your own words. Now that you've had some practice decoding a prompt like this, it's time to learn some strategies for actually writing your essay. Step 4, answer the prompt with a single sentence. When you're writing an essay based on a prompt like this, you're basically just giving a very thorough answer to a complex question. So we can start by answering that question in a single sentence. This sentence will then become your thesis statement, or at least the first draft of your thesis statement. And the rest of your essay will provide evidence and explanations to back up that single sentence answer. Coming up with a solid thesis statement is one of the hardest parts of the writing process for a lot of students. But thankfully, the writing prompt itself provides you with the basic bone structure for your thesis. Last time, in step 2, we identified some key words in our example writing prompt. By just rearranging some of these words, we can get a bare bones beginning of a good thesis statement. Corporate sponsorship for schools has several pros and cons, but the position in favor of sponsorship is more persuasive. Now, let's be clear, this thesis statement isn't good. Please don't write a paper with that as your thesis statement. But that doesn't matter. That's what revision is for. Using those key words from the prompt, we now have a simple statement of what our essay is going to be about. Now, let's revise it to make it sound better. We can do that by making it more specific and by rewording things just a little. In our first draft, we mentioned pros and cons. Let's get more specific. You could go anywhere you want with this, but I'll list out the ones that came to my mind. Pros: you can get money for school programs. Cons: we don't really want rich businesses brainwashing kids, and that's kind of what happens when their logo is plastered all over the school. Remember that pros and cons are both plural in the prompt. Right now, I've only got 1 pro and 1 con. So I need to leave myself room to talk about plural pros and cons. The pros side will be easy. I can just talk about raising money for plural programs, like music, sports, debate, robotics, whatever. I could do something similar with the cons by saying that this corporate brainwashing could have plural negative effects. Now that I've specified what I meant by pros and cons and basically planned my essay out, I can reword my thesis statement so that it actually sounds good. Critics complain that corporate sponsorship in schools allows big businesses to influence the shapeable minds of young students in negative ways, and they have a valid point. However, our school district can't afford to pass up the much-needed cash such agreements could provide to our sports, music, and academic programs. Now that is a strong thesis statement. But we got there by first creating a bare-bones rough draft made up of keywords taken straight from the writing prompt. And sometimes that simple, bare-bones, straight-from-the-prompt thesis statement can be perfectly effective without a lot of revision. One last suggestion on step 4. Remember last time how I said that English teachers like to insist on making you pretend that you're writing for some real audience other than them? Yeah, it's annoying. Deal with it. Part of that means that your 1-sentence answer to the prompt, your thesis statement, needs to make sense to someone who hasn't read the prompt, someone other than your teacher. For example, what if we had written our 1-sentence answer like this? Even though it has both pros and cons, I am in favor of it because the pros outweigh the cons. Your teacher knows what you mean here because she wrote the prompt, but someone else, someone who didn't write the prompt, would probably read this sentence and say, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. That's because you have vague words in your answer. Avoid that. Your 1-sentence answer should sound like you're sort of restating the question within your answer. Does that make sense? The final step for responding to prompts involves the rest of the essay. Step 5, reuse keywords from the prompt, or synonyms for those keywords, throughout your essay. Look back at the keywords from your prompt and identify a couple that really summarize the topic of this essay. What is this thing about? In this one, it might be corporate sponsorship and schools. Now, I'm not saying that I want you to go and repeat the phrase corporate sponsorship 37 times in your essay. That would just be annoying. What I am saying is that if you have a paragraph in this essay that doesn't talk about corporate sponsorship in schools, then that paragraph is off topic. A good way to make sure that doesn't happen is to just make sure that at least once or twice in every body paragraph, you reuse these keywords from the prompt. Or, to avoid being repetitive, synonyms for these keywords. And if you do that in every body paragraph, I promise that your essay train will not get derailed. I think it's your turn. Let's go to work.